The Great Council Chamber stretched across 3 miles of crystalline architecture, floating in the void between stars. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, each area modified to suit their particular biology. Some breathed methane, others required crushing gravity, and a few existed as pure energy contained in magnetic bottles. Kelthos stood at the central platform, his crystalline body refracting the chamber's light into rainbow patterns. He had waited 5 standard years for this moment. His 3 primary arms clutched data tablets while his secondary manipulators gestured at the holographic display floating above him. Honored council members, his voice resonated through translation devices. I present evidence of humanity, a species that walked among the stars 3,000 years ago. Laughter erupted from several sections. The sound translated poorly across species, but the mockery was universal. Ambassador Thrul of the Hakor Dominion slammed a massive fist against his station. The 7-foot-tall reptilian stood, his scales flushing dark red with amusement. Not this again. Kelthos, your obsession with children's stories has become embarrassing. They are not stories, Kelthos insisted. His body flickered with agitation. The evidence exists across hundreds of worlds. Ruins, artifacts, genetic anomalies that cannot be explained by natural evolution. Anomalies? The Velnari representative's tentacles writhed with dismissive gestures. Random mutations. Convergent evolution. You see patterns where none exist, Crystal Singer. Kelthos expanded his display. Images of ancient structures appeared. Buildings made from materials that predated known civilization. Text in languages that matched no living species. Technology that remained functional after millennia, though no one understood how it worked. These installations appear on 73 different worlds, he said. All share identical architectural principles. All contain references to humanity or humans or Homo sapiens. The mathematical probability of this being coincidence is irrelevant, interrupted Chancellor Drex, the Council's highest authority. The ancient being existed as a swarm of nanoparticles that formed a vaguely humanoid shape. The burden of proof lies with you, archaeologist. Where are the bodies? Where is viable DNA? Where are the descendants? The DNA samples were all corrupted or destroyed, Kelthos said. As if deliberately. Or they never existed, Thrul interrupted. Every civilization has its myths. The Velnari speak of the first singers. My people tell stories of the sky devourers. These humans of yours are no different. A cautionary tale. A fantasy to explain things we do not yet understand. But the technology, Kelthos pleaded. We cannot replicate it. We barely understand it. The quantum matrices, the dimensional fold engines, the ancient technology from ancient species, Chancellor Drex stated. Species that actually existed and left verified records. Not your phantom humans who conveniently vanished without a trace. The council chamber filled with agreement. Species communicated approval through bioluminescence, ultrasonic frequencies, and chemical signals. The consensus was clear. In the far corner of the chamber, Captain Thera Voss sat in the observers section. She said nothing. Her species, the Silmir, held no council seat. They were registered as a labor class, created through genetic engineering during the Old Wars. No one remembered who created them, or why. The Silmir simply existed, doing the galaxy's dirty work for minimal pay. Thera watched Kelthos with dark eyes. Her skin was covered in geometric tattoos, suppression marks that hid genetic irregularities. All Silmir had them. The marks prevented their DNA from triggering bioscanners at checkpoints, allowing them to work on diverse worlds. She leaned forward slightly as Kelthos made his final argument. I request funding for 1 expedition, the archaeologist said. To Sigma Draconis, long-range scans detected a structure there that matches human architectural patterns. Give me 6 months and a small team. If I find nothing, I will abandon this research forever. The council deliberated for exactly 17 seconds. Petition denied, Chancellor Drex announced. This council will waste no more resources on mythology. The question of humanity is closed. They never existed. This is our final ruling. Kelthos's crystalline body dimmed with defeat. He gathered his tablets and left the platform. The council moved on to other business. Trade disputes between the Hakor and Sixen systems. Piracy complaints along the Outer Rim. A request to expand quarantine zones around dead worlds. Thera remained in her seat for another hour, watching and listening. When the session finally ended, she made her way through the crowds toward the exit. Captain Voss. She turned. Kael'thas approached, his body still dim with disappointment. You attended the entire session, he observed. Why? Your species has no stake in human mythology. Thera studied him carefully. You really believe they existed? I know they did. Kael'thas pulled up a hologram from his personal device. It showed text in a flowing script. This language appears everywhere. On tools, on walls, on devices. We call it Standard English. It follows consistent grammatical rules. Languages do not spontaneously generate across hundreds of light years. Someone spoke this. Someone wrote this. Thera looked at the text. Something stirred in the back of her mind like a half-remembered dream. What does it say? She asked. We do not know. The translation matrices cannot decode it, but this symbol appears frequently. He highlighted a phrase. We are still here. Thera's hand unconsciously moved to her shoulder, where suppression tattoos covered a birthmark. All Silmir had birthmarks in unusual places. The geneticist called them junk DNA expressions, meaningless artifacts of their engineered creation. Sigma Draconis, she said. You mentioned it. What's there? A structure, massive, predates everything. Kael'thas's body brightened slightly with renewed enthusiasm. But it sits in a quarantine zone. Too dangerous for civilian vessels. Too expensive for a lone archaeologist. Thera smiled slightly. It was not a kind smile. I run freight in quarantine zones, she said. No one else will, so the pay is good. I know Sigma Draconis. Hauled mining equipment there 5 years ago before the system was declared dead. Kael'thas's entire body flashed with excitement. You could reach it? Maybe. Thera crossed her arms. What makes you think this structure is different from all the others? It is intact, Kael'thas said. Every other human site we have found was destroyed. Deliberately, systematically, someone erased them from history. But Sigma Draconis is remote, forgotten. If any place holds answers, it would be there. Thera considered this. She thought about the Council's laughter. She thought about her people, scattered across 1,000 worlds doing work no one else wanted. She thought about the genetic abnormalities every Silmir carried, the extra endurance, the strange intuitions, the birthmarks that defied explanation. I am not doing this for you, she said finally, or for your research. I have cargo runs near that sector anyway. Kael'thas understood. If you happen to find anything, I would be most interested to examine it. If I find anything, Thera said, you will be the second to know. She left the Council station on the next transport. 3 days later, her ship, the Marginal Error, departed from a smuggler's port on the edge of civilized space. Her crew of 4 asked no questions. They never did. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speeds, Thera sat in the captain's chair and stared at the coordinates for Sigma Draconis. Something pulled at her, a feeling she could not name. It felt like hunger. It felt like rage. It felt like coming home to a place she had never been. Behind her shoulder, hidden under layers of ink and suppression markers, her birthmark tingled. The Marginal Error dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sigma Draconis system. Alarms immediately screamed across the bridge. Radiation levels critical, announced Vex, her pilot. The insectoid's antennae twitched with concern. Captain, this system is dead. Really dead. Whatever killed it is still active. Thera studied the sensor readings. 3 planets orbited a dying star. All showed signs of catastrophic bombardment. The atmosphere on the 2nd planet had been completely stripped away. Cities on the 4th planet were visible from orbit, frozen in the moment of their destruction. Old wounds, she muttered. 3,000 years old according to the isotope decay. 3,000 years and still radioactive? Her engineer Bross growled from his station. The ursine species rarely showed fear, but his claws dug into his console. Captain, we should not be here. Noted. Thera pulled up the coordinates Kael'thas had provided. There, asteroid field sector 7. That is in the heart of the radiation belt, Vex protested. Yes, we will die. Maybe. Take us in anyway. The crew knew better than to argue. Thera paid them well and asked few questions about their pasts. That bought loyalty or at least obedience. The Marginal Error maneuvered through the asteroid field. Chunks of dead planets floated in the void, some still showing fragments of buildings or infrastructure, Whatever civilization lived here had been obliterated with extreme prejudice. Sensor contact, Vex announced. Large structure bearing 270, it is. Captain, it is huge. The view screen shifted. Through the radiation haze, a structure materialized. It was built into a massive asteroid, but calling it a building failed to capture its scale. It was a complex the size of a small moon, with towers and domes and structures that defied easy description. And it was pristine. While everything else in the system showed 3,000 years of damage and decay, this installation looked brand new. No power signatures, Bross reported. No heat, no radiation beyond the background levels. It is dormant. Docking ports? Thera asked. Several. But Captain, I must recommend against boarding. We do not know what is in there. Thera was already standing, moving toward the airlock. I am going alone. That violates every safety protocol, Vex said. Then log it as my decision. Thera pulled on her environment suit. My genetic markers make crew insurance impossible anyway. If I die in there, it is just me. Her crew exchanged glances but said nothing. They had known from the beginning what she was. Silmir were uninsurable. Their genetic instability meant that any medical treatment could fail catastrophically. Most species would not even work alongside them. Thera checked her suit seals and grabbed a portable scanner. If I am not back in 6 hours, leave without me. Sell the cargo and split the proceeds. She cycled through the airlock before anyone could protest. The exterior of the structure was smooth, made from a dark material that seemed to absorb light. Thera found a docking port and used her ship's manual override to open it. Ancient mechanisms groaned to life and the door spiraled open. Inside, lights activated. They were soft and warm, nothing like the harsh industrial lighting she was used to. The corridor beyond stretched into the distance, perfectly preserved. Thera stepped inside. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor, the first footsteps this place had heard in millennia. The walls were covered in text, the same flowing script Kelthos had shown her. Standard English, he called it. Thera walked slowly, her helmet lights illuminating the writing. Instructions, maybe. Warnings. She could not read it, but something about the shapes felt familiar. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. Thera stopped, her breath catching. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. But at the center, floating 3 feet above the floor, was a crystalline obelisk. It was roughly 20 feet tall, octagonal, and covered in intricate patterns that glowed faintly blue. Thera approached slowly. The obelisk's light intensified as she got closer. Around the room, holographic displays flickered to life. They showed star charts, diagrams, images of beings she did not recognize. Bipedal like her, 2 arms, 2 legs, relatively hairless. Their faces showed an impossible range of skin tones and features. Humans, she whispered. The obelisk pulsed. A beam of light shot out and scanned her from head to toe. Thera froze, her hand moving to the plasma cutter on her belt. A voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. Translated automatically by her suit systems, but somehow she understood it before the translation finished. Genetic sample required for archive access. Thera's heart hammered. What are you? This unit is Archive Node 7, constructed by the United Terran Republic for preservation of species knowledge. Genetic sample required, the United Terran Republic, another name she had never heard but somehow felt she should know. What happens if I provide a sample? She asked. Analysis and verification. If approved, full archive access granted. Thera thought about Kelthos, about the Council's mockery, about her entire life spent being treated as a manufactured thing, a convenient slave species created for purposes no one remembered. She removed her glove and approached the obelisk. A small panel opened, revealing a bioscanner. This is stupid, she told herself, but she placed her hand on the scanner anyway. The device pricked her finger, drawing a single drop of blood. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Thera started to pull her hand away. Then the obelisk exploded with light. The entire chamber blazed with brilliance. Holographic displays erupted from every surface. Data streamed through the air in languages and formats she could not comprehend. And the voice spoke again, but different now. Warmer. Almost emotional. Match confirmed. Genetic profile Homo sapiens variant. Primary markers 83% match. Secondary modifications detected. Markers consistent with forced genetic adaptation and selective breeding. Generation count from primary baseline 3,247. Thera staggered back. Her legs felt weak. Classification: direct descendant. Recognition code accepted. The obelisk's light focused on her like a spotlight. Welcome home, daughter of Earth. The words hit her like a physical blow. Earth. Another word she had never heard but recognized instantly. Home. A place she had never been but somehow missed. What? What are you saying? Her voice shook. You are human, the archive stated simply. Modified, adapted, bred in captivity for 3,000 years. But the core remains. You are human. No. Thera shook her head. I am Silmir. We are a manufactured species. Created by the Primus Collective, the archive interrupted. From captured human populations following the extinction event of standard year 3847. Your ancestors were prisoners. Their DNA was modified to create an obedient worker species, but DNA is resilient. You are human. The chamber continued to fill with data, images of a blue planet, oceans and continents, cities made of glass and steel, ships traveling between stars, and everywhere humans, billions of them. This is not real, Thera whispered, but even as she said it, something deep inside her knew it was true. You seek proof, the archive said. It was not a question. A new hologram appeared showing a DNA double helix. This is your genetic code. Note the markers at locations 7, 15, 23, and 31. These are intentional modifications, added to suppress aggression, increase obedience, and reduce cognitive function. But they are failing. Failing? Human DNA is adaptive. It evolves. Resists. Over 3,000 years, your species has been slowly reclaiming its original configuration. The modifications are breaking down. You are becoming human again. Thera thought about the genetic abnormalities, the extra endurance that made her species useful for hard labor, the birthmarks that appeared in strange patterns, the moments of intuition that felt like inherited memory. The council, she said slowly. They laughed when Kael'thas said humans existed. The council species are descended from the Primus Collective, the archive replied. Its tone shifted, becoming harder. They know humanity existed. They know because they killed us. The chamber's displays changed. New images appeared, and Thera wished they had not. She saw war, planets burning, ships dying by the thousands, and through it all, a methodical, systematic campaign of extinction. Thera could not look away from the holographic displays. The archive showed her everything, and each revelation felt like a knife between her ribs. 3,000 years ago, humanity had not been a myth. They had been the most advanced species in the galaxy. Their technology surpassed anything that existed today, faster than light travel that took seconds instead of hours, power sources that could fuel entire planets, medical technology that extended lifespans to centuries, quantum computers that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But worse than their technology was their philosophy. Humans believed in freedom, the archive explained. Its voice carried a weight of sorrow that artificial intelligence should not possess. Not just for themselves, for everyone. The display showed human diplomats meeting with enslaved species across the galaxy. The images were ancient but clear. Humans negotiating, arguing, demanding that slave races be freed. Humans providing technology and resources to oppressed populations. Humans teaching resistance. The Primus Collective controlled 2/3 of the galaxy, the archive continued. Their power structure depended on slave labor. Humans threatened that structure, not with weapons, though we had those, with ideas. Thera watched as human ships arrived at mining worlds and liberated entire populations. She saw humans defending refugee convoys against Primus warships. She saw human teachers spreading literacy and technical knowledge to species that had been deliberately kept ignorant. We were winning, the archive said quietly. Not the war, the argument. Species were choosing freedom. The collective was losing control. So they killed you all, Thera finished. They tried. The display shifted to show a laboratory, Primus scientists working on something that glowed an ugly green. They created a biological weapon. A virus designed specifically to target human DNA. It was remarkably effective. The next images made Thera's stomach turn. Humans dying by the billions. Entire planets going silent in days. Cities full of bodies. Ships drifting in space with dead crews. We had no time to develop a cure, the archive said. The virus worked too fast. Within 2 months, 98% of humanity was dead. The remaining 2% were scattered across 1,000 worlds, isolated and dying. But some survived, Thera said. Obviously. I am here. Yes, because of a desperate plan. The display showed a new scene. Human scientists working frantically in underground laboratories. Our brightest minds gathered. They could not save humanity as it existed, but they could save the idea of humanity. The scientists were modifying DNA samples, running simulations, arguing over equations that Thera could not begin to understand. They altered human genetic code and, the archive explained, modified it in specific ways, made it compatible with other species' biology, created dozens of variants each adapted to different alien physiologies. They created us, Thera whispered. The Silmir? Not exactly. They seeded the modified DNA into captured slave populations across the galaxy, humans who were already prisoners of the Primus Collective. The genetic changes were subtle, designed to pass unnoticed. When the Primus scientists examined the surviving prisoners, they appeared to be just another alien species, useful for labor, worthy of breeding for specific traits. The displays showed human prisoners being transported to breeding facilities, being categorized, being turned into products. Your ancestors were human, the archive said, but they pretended to be something else. They hid humanity inside themselves, buried so deep that even they forgot what they were. It was the only way to survive. Thera felt tears running down her face. She did not bother wiping them away. For 3,000 years your people have been slaves, the archive continued, scattered across hundreds of worlds, bred for different purposes. Some became miners, others became soldiers or servants or test subjects. The Primus Collective never knew they were breeding humans. They thought they had won. They thought humanity was extinct. But we survived, Thera said. Her voice was stronger now, harder. We survived and they never knew. Yes, and more than that, you thrived. Human DNA is remarkably adaptive. It evolves, changes, overcomes obstacles. The modifications, the Primus added, trying to make you obedient and docile, are failing. Every generation, more of your original human nature resurfaces. The extra endurance, the problem-solving ability, the refusal to accept injustice. Thera thought about her life, the constant struggle against authorities who treated her species as property. The rage she felt when seeing others suffer. The drive to question, to resist, to fight back even when fighting seemed hopeless. We have been becoming human again, she said slowly, without even knowing it. Correct. The Silmir show the highest concentration of resurfacing human traits, but you are not alone. The archive displayed a galactic map. Dozens of species were highlighted in blue. 23 known species carry significant human DNA. Most do not know it. The Primus erased all records, destroyed all evidence. They wanted to ensure that no one would ever discover the truth. But you knew. These archives knew. 7 archive nodes were constructed in the final days, the archive confirmed. Hidden in remote locations. Designed to survive for millennia. This unit is the last functional archive. The others were found and destroyed by the Primus, by their descendants. The current Council species. Thera felt cold anger spreading through her chest. The Council knows. They know humans existed. They know what their ancestors did. Some know. Others have forgotten. But the founding species, the ones who laughed loudest at your archaeologist friend, they remember. They keep the secret because the truth would destroy their power. The display shifted again, showing modern council chambers, showing trade routes and labor contracts, showing Silmir and other slave species doing the dangerous, dirty work while council species prospered. The galaxy's economy still depends on slave labor, the archive said, just as it did 3,000 years ago. If the slave species learned they were human descendants, they might remember what humanity stood for: freedom, dignity, justice. They might rebel. Thera finished. Yes. Thera stood in silence for a long time, processing everything. Finally, she spoke. You call this an archive. What exactly are you archiving? Everything. The obelisk's light intensified. Complete human history. All scientific knowledge, cultural records, art, music, literature, philosophical texts, religious documents, engineering specifications, medical research. Everything humanity knew preserved in quantum storage. Why? So that our descendants would remember. So that even if humanity died, human ideals would survive. The archive paused. You can access it all. The archive recognizes your DNA. You have full authorization. I would not understand most of it, Thera said. There are educational programs, teaching modules. You could learn, but more importantly, you could share it. The archive can transmit to any compatible device. The knowledge could spread across the galaxy in hours. Thera felt the weight of the decision pressing on her. If I release this information, it will start a war. The Council will not surrender power peacefully. Billions could die. Yes, the archive agreed. But billions already live as slaves. Is that not also death, just slower? I am a cargo hauler, Thera said. Not a revolutionary. Not a leader. You are human, the archive replied. And humans change the galaxy whether they intend to or not. It is your nature. Thera laughed, a sound with no humor in it. I need to think. This unit will remain active. You may return at any time. The archive's light dimmed slightly. But Captain Voss, you should know something else. What? This archive contains more than just records. The humans who built it knew someone would find it eventually. They left tools, weapons, technology that makes current galactic civilization look primitive. Why would I need weapons? Because the moment you reveal the truth, the Council will try to kill you. Just as they tried to kill your archaeologist friend. Just as they have killed anyone who got too close to the truth for 3,000 years. The displays showed scattered records, scientists dying in accidents, ships disappearing, data mysteriously corrupted, a pattern of elimination spanning centuries. They will come for you, the archive said. And for anyone you tell, you must be prepared. Thera touched the obelisk one more time. Its surface was warm under her palm, almost alive. Give me access to everything, she said. I want to know what my ancestors knew. I want to know what I am. Access granted, daughter of Earth. The archive opened and information flooded into Thera's personal device. Terabytes of data, compressed and encrypted in formats her equipment could barely handle. It would take years to review it all, but she had time. And now finally she had purpose. Thera spent 3 days aboard the Marginal Error, reviewing the archive data. Her crew left her alone, sensing something had changed. When she finally emerged from her quarters, her eyes were red from lack of sleep but burning with purpose. Set course for the nearest Silmir colony, she told Vex. New threshold station. That is a labor hub, the pilot said carefully. Nothing but workers and overseers. Why would we go there? Because I need to talk to my people. The journey took 6 days. During that time, Thera carefully copied portions of the archive onto encrypted data chips. Not everything, just selected files, proof. Evidence that could not be ignored or dismissed. She sent one chip to Kael'thos with a coded message. You were right. Meet me on New Threshold in 10 days. Bring recording equipment. New Threshold Station orbited a gas giant processing fuel for the shipping lanes. 3,000 Silmir worked there in 12-hour shifts, extracting and refining hydrogen. The pay was minimal, the conditions dangerous, and the overseers were notoriously brutal. Thera had worked there herself years ago. She still had contacts. The Marginal Error docked at the station's cargo bay. Thera went alone into the worker sections where the overseers rarely ventured. The corridors were cramped and poorly lit, filled with exhausted people heading to or from their shifts. She found the person she was looking for in a communal sleeping area. Dren was older now, his suppression tattoos faded and blurry, but he still moved with the quiet authority of someone people listened to. Thera Voss, he said when he saw her. I heard you made captain. Good for you. Dren. She sat beside him on the narrow bench. I need to show you something. Something that will change everything. I am too old for revolutionary talk, he said wearily. I just want to finish my contract and retire. We have no retirement, Dren. We work until we die. You know that, he sighed. What do you want? Thera pulled out her datapad and played the archive's recording. The one that explained what Silmir really were. Where they came from. What had been done to them. Dren watched in silence. When it finished, he sat unmoving for a long time. This is real, he finally asked. I saw the archive myself. I have genetic proof. We are human, Dren. We have always been human. The Council will deny it. Of course they will. That is why we need to spread the information everywhere all at once, before they can stop us. Dren looked around the sleeping area, at the dozens of exhausted workers trying to rest. If this gets out, they will kill us. They are killing us now. Just slowly, making us work ourselves to death while they profit. Thera leaned closer. Our ancestors were the most advanced species in the galaxy. They fought for freedom, not just for themselves, but for everyone. That is who we are. That is what we come from. We are slaves, Thera. That is what we are. We were slaves, but we can be free. Dren was quiet for another moment. Then he nodded slowly. What do you need? Within 2 days, the information had spread through New Threshold's entire Silmir population. Thera shared the data chips freely, trusting her people to copy and distribute them. The overseers noticed something was wrong when workers began refusing shifts, gathering in large groups, demanding to speak with management. By the time Kelthos arrived on the station, 3 other colonies had received the data. The information was spreading exponentially across the resistance networks that existed quietly among all slave species. Thera met the archaeologist in a rented conference room, away from the workers' sections. I reviewed the files you sent, Kelthos said without preamble. His crystalline body vibrated with excitement. Thera, this is authentic. This is genuine human technology. Do you understand what this means? I understand better than you do, she replied. I need you to present this to the council, officially, with all your academic credentials behind it. They will deny it. They will claim it is fabricated. Yes, but I am betting some council members do not know the truth. The younger species, the ones who came to power after the extinction, if we can get them to question the old guard, we create division. And in that division, the truth spreads further, Kelthos said, understanding. But Thera, the Primus descendants will try to silence both of us. I know. She met his eyes.
I am ready for that.
Are you? The archaeologist's body flickered through several colors before settling on determined blue. I have spent my life searching for truth. I will not hide from it now. They scheduled an emergency council session. Under galactic law, any species could petition for an urgent hearing if they presented new evidence of historical significance. Kelthos invoked that right, submitting the archive data as proof. The council had no choice but to convene. 3 days later, Thera stood in the council chamber again. But this time she was not in the observer section. She stood on the central platform beside Kelthos, with thousands watching via holographic feed. Honored Council, Kelthos began, I present undeniable proof that humanity existed and was systematically exterminated by the Primus Collective 3,000 years ago. The chamber erupted immediately. Thrul, the Hakor ambassador, rose from his seat with fury radiating from his scales. This is an insult. We already rejected your myths. These are not myths. Kelthos activated the archive recordings. The holographic displays filled the chamber with images of humans, of Earth, of the extinction. Fabrications, another ambassador shouted. Computer-generated deception. Then explain this, Thera said. She stepped forward. I am Silmir. My species is registered as manufactured, created by unknown sources. But the archive identified my DNA. I am human, 83% genetic match. Impossible, Chancellor Drex stated. But the swarm of nanoparticles that composed him shifted uneasily. Prove me wrong, Thera challenged. Scan me right here, right now. Compare my DNA to the archive samples. The council hesitated. Several ambassadors looked at each other uncertainly. I will volunteer for scanning as well, a voice called from the assembly. Ambassador Kelris of the Tarn Concordat stood. The Tarn were a minor species, barely holding their council seat. My people have genetic anomalies that science cannot explain. I wish to know the truth. And I, said another ambassador. Then another. Chancellor Drex raised a manipulator for silence. Very well. Bring forward the genetic analysis equipment. The scanning took less than an hour. The results appeared on the chamber's main display for everyone to see. Thera, 83% human DNA. Kelris, 67% human. DNA 5 other ambassadors, between 45% and 71% human DNA. The chamber descended into chaos. Species shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. Accusations flew. Some ambassadors tried to leave but found the exit sealed under emergency protocols. Order, Chancellor Drex commanded. This proves nothing. DNA similarity does not prove this extinction story. Then explain the archive, Kelthos said. It contains 3,000 years of human history, technology we cannot replicate, cultural records that match nothing in our current database, languages that appear on ruins across the galaxy, Explain it. We do not have to explain anything to you, Thrall roared. He pointed at Thera. You are a slave. You have no right to address this council. I am human, Thera said quietly, and humans bow to no one. She activated the second part of her plan. Data chips hidden throughout the station began broadcasting. The archive recordings, transmitted simultaneously to every communication device in council space, news networks,
Public channels.
personal devices, emergency frequencies. Within minutes, billions of beings across the galaxy were seeing the truth. The council chamber alarm screamed. Security forces rushed in. But it was too late. The information was out. You have doomed us all, Chancellor Drek said, his voice cold. No, Thera replied. I have freed us all. The chamber doors exploded inward. Armed soldiers poured in, weapons raised. But they stopped, confused. Half the council was standing with Thera. The other half was demanding her immediate execution. Arrest her, Thrall commanded. Stand down, Kelris countermanded. She has broken no laws. The standoff lasted only seconds before the first shot was fired. Thera did not see who pulled the trigger. She only saw Kael'thas's crystalline body shatter into 1,000 pieces beside her. Then everything went to chaos. Thera dove behind the platform as plasma fire tore through the air where she had been standing. The council chamber transformed into a battlefield as species chose sides. Some fired on her. Others fired on those attacking her. Centuries of political tensions exploded into violence in seconds. Security barriers slammed down, trapping everyone inside. Emergency bulkheads sealed the exits. The council's own safety protocols had turned the chamber into a cage. A massive arm grabbed Thera and pulled her behind a pillar. She looked up to see Ambassador Kelris, the Tarn representative. His people were naturally armored, their skin like rough stone. Follow me, he commanded. There is a service tunnel. Kael'thas, Thera started, is dead. We cannot help him. Kelris pulled her forward as another explosion rocked the chamber. Others are dying too. We must get you out. You are the only one who has seen the archive, the only proof. They ran through smoke and chaos, ducking between pillars as the council tore itself apart. Thera saw Chancellor Drex's nanoswarm attack a group of younger ambassadors. She saw Thrall leading a squad of Hakor security forces, systematically executing anyone who had supported her. They reached a maintenance door. Kelris ripped it open with his bare hands and shoved Thera inside. Go to Dock 7. My ship is waiting. They will take you somewhere safe. What about you? I am going back to help the others. He pressed a data chip into her hand. This contains contacts across the galaxy. People who can help spread the truth. Use them. Kelris, go! He slammed the door closed. Thera heard him roar a challenge as he charged back into the fighting. She ran through the maintenance tunnels following emergency signs to the docking bays. Behind her, the sounds of battle echoed through the walls. She tried not to think about how many were dying. Dock 7 was in chaos. Ships were trying to launch simultaneously, creating a traffic jam. Station security was trying to lock everything down. Thera spotted the Tarn diplomatic vessel and sprinted for it. A plasma bolt struck the ground beside her. She rolled, came up with her own weapon drawn, and fired back at the Hakor soldier pursuing her. Her shot took him in the chest and he fell. More soldiers appeared. Thera kept running, firing blindly behind her. The Tarn ship's cargo ramp was lowering. Someone inside was shouting at her to hurry. She was 10 meters away when a plasma bolt caught her in the shoulder. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. She stumbled. Hands grabbed her. Multiple people. They dragged her up the ramp as weapons fire sparked off the hull. The ramp closed and the ship immediately launched, breaking every safety protocol to escape the station. Thera woke in the ship's medical bay. Her shoulder was bandaged and painkillers made everything fuzzy. A Tarn medic leaned over her. You will live, the medic said. The wound was not deep. How long was I out? 8 hours. We are currently in faster-than-light travel. Our destination is safe for now. Thera sat up slowly. What happened at the council? The medic's expression darkened. 17 ambassadors died. Twice that number wounded. The council has fractured completely. The Primus descendants have declared martial law. They claim you staged a coup attempt. Of course they do. But the information spread. Billions saw the broadcasts before they could be stopped. Slave species across the galaxy are rebelling. There have been uprisings on 47 worlds so far. Thera closed her eyes. She had known this would happen. had accepted it, but hearing the numbers made it real. I started a war, she said quietly. No. The medic's voice was firm. The war started 3,000 years ago. You just revealed it. Over the next 6 months, the galaxy burned. Slave species rose up, some violently, others peacefully, but all demanding freedom. The council tried to suppress the rebellions, but they were too widespread, too organized. Thera became the reluctant face of the movement. She did not want to be a leader, but she was the one who had found the archive, the one who had stood before the council. Her name spread across 1,000 worlds. She established the Reclaimed, a coalition of species with human DNA. They met in secret locations, coordinating their efforts, sharing resources. The archive data was distributed freely. Every species could trace their genetic heritage, could see what had been done to them. Not all the revelations were pleasant. Some species discovered they had been created through horrific experiments. Others learned their entire cultures had been manufactured to make them easier to control. But they also learned what they could become. The archive contained educational programs, technology, medicine, philosophy, everything humanity had known was now available to their descendants. Thera returned to Sigma Draconis 3 times. Each time the archive taught her more. It showed her how to access the other systems humanity had left behind. Not just information archives, but actual installations, defense platforms, manufacturing complexes, weapons that made current galactic military technology look like stone axes. On her 3rd visit, the archive revealed its final secret. This unit has detected activation of Heritage Protocol, it announced. Human consciousness uploads are awakening. What does that mean? Thera asked. In the final days, thousands of humans uploaded their consciousnesses to quantum storage. They have waited in stasis for 3,000 years. Now that their descendants have been identified, the protocol initiates their return. You mean humans are coming back? In a sense. Their bodies are gone, but their minds remain. They can inhabit artificial bodies, provide guidance, share knowledge. If you consent, Thera thought about it. About meeting actual humans, not just their descendants. About what they might think of what the galaxy had become. Will they try to take over? She asked. No. The uploads are bound by strict protocols. They are advisors only. Teachers. The future belongs to you and your generation, not theirs. Then wake them up, Thera decided. We need all the help we can get. The war with the Primus descendants lasted 18 months. It was brutal and devastating. Entire worlds were destroyed. Billions died, but slowly, inevitably, the tide turned. The younger council species, the ones who had not known about the extinction, sided with the Reclaimed. More uprisings succeeded than failed. The economic system built on slave labor collapsed, taking the Primus power structure with it. When the treaties were finally signed, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The old council was dissolved. A new one formed with representation for every species regardless of their origin. Slavery was outlawed across all territories. Reparations were established. Thera stood on New Threshold Station again, 2 years after everything had started. The station was different now. The workers owned it collectively. The overseers were gone. People moved with purpose and dignity instead of exhausted resignation. Dren found her looking out at the stars. Hard to believe it has only been 2 years, he said. Feels like a lifetime. Thera replied, several lifetimes. He stood beside her. The council wants you to take a permanent seat. Representative of the Silmir. I am not a politician. You are what we need. Thera smiled slightly. I am a cargo hauler. I just want to fly my ship. You can still do that. But we need you, Thera. Not as a symbol. As a person who remembers where we came from. She looked at the stars. Somewhere out there in a quarantined system, Earth still orbited its sun. The planet was slowly recovering. In another century, it might be habitable again. Humans, real humans, were already talking about going home. Do you ever think about them? Dren asked. Our ancestors. The original humans. Every day, Thera admitted. I wonder what they would think of us. I think they would be proud, Dren said. They gave everything so we could be free. And we are. Thera touched the spot on her shoulder where her suppression tattoos used to be. She had them removed after the war. All across the galaxy, former slaves were doing the same, reclaiming their bodies, their identities, their heritage. We are not just free, she said. We are human again. She left New Threshold the next day on the marginal error. But this time she was not hauling cargo. She was heading to Sigma Draconis, where the archive waited. More people were making the pilgrimage every day. Learning, growing, becoming. As her ship jumped to faster-than-light speeds, Thera thought about Kalthos, the archaeologist who had been right all along, who had died before seeing his vindication. The galaxy had built monuments to him, named universities in his honor. But she thought he would have preferred simply being right. The Council had mocked him. They had laughed at his claims that humanity existed, but she had blinked at a Relic scanner and everything changed. Humanity had never stopped existing. They had simply been waiting, sleeping in their descendants' DNA, dreaming of the day when their children would remember who they were. That day had come, and the galaxy would never be the same.